Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article is about Walk for Freedom. This is a global fundraising and an awareness event, and this is organized by an international organization called as A21. This international association has people from multiple folds. They have a similar wavelength and frequency, and they also have like-minded activists all come up together and they campaign for the abolition of human trafficking and slavery. So what is the objective of this international organization? People come up together and they fight for the abolition of human trafficking. As we speak of human trafficking, it is one of the biggest problems that the world is currently witnessing. It is a cancer to the humanity. Through force, fraud, deceit and coercion, people are bought and they are sold against their own will. It ranges from sex trafficking to several other non-consensual forms of labor as well as abuse. Now let's try and understand what are the types of trafficking. The first type of trafficking is the sex trafficking. What happens? People are forced, they are deceived, they are also coerced against their own will to enter into compromising positions to perform a commercial sex act against their own will. People have been captured, they are put from one place to another against their own will into this flesh trade. The second form of trafficking is the forced labor. What happens in forced labor? There is a person who is captured and he is put in captivity and he is asked to work for number of hours and days and years together, and all that he gets is little or no pay for the work that he has done. Then what we also have is the bonded labor. In this, a person is forced to work for low wages or in fact no wages. Why? Because previously this person has taken certain debt and all that he is doing right now is working to ensure that this debt is paid off. Even here, there is no wage and there is no pay for the work that he is contributing. Then we have child labor as well as child soldiers. They are captured, they are lured and they are victimized. They are asked to work in hazardous conditions and they are also employed and participated in the armed struggle as well. So these are the types of trafficking that we see in the world. Now the question is, how are they trafficked? What are the various ways that these people are trafficked from one region to another? The first includes false job advertisement. The world runs on economics. There are three important things. One is food, shelter, as well as clothing. These three amenities are very important for every person. So how do they fulfill it? They need jobs for it. So there are advertising agencies which are put up on social media, print media, visual media, so on and so forth. If there is a victim who happens to look at it and there is a fake agency which is luring this particular victim, he goes up to this particular agency and this agency in the name of job prospect captures him and sends him to another territory or to another region or country. The second way how trafficking happens is by close, near and the dear ones. So they are sold by their family members. There have been number of instances where father, brother, in fact close acquaintance as well as their friends have sold them to the traffickers. Non-governmental organizations which are working on human trafficking, particularly in the girl trafficking, have stated that nearly 27.41% of the family members are forcing the victims into flush trade in India. So the problem here is that they are sold by their immediate family members to flesh trade as well as prostitution. The third way of trafficking is by an agency, or it is also called as an agency of liberator. So what is this liberator? Basically, you have an individual or an agency or an organization or an institution which works for the cause of the women or children. So it is this individual or an organization which masquerades as one helping the victims, but it is the same agency who capture this particular victim in the name of helping them, and they also send this captured victim to another country. So the idea here is they are masquerading as liberators, but instead they are the poachers of women as well as children. The fourth is when it comes to kidnapping as well as abduction. So there is a difference between kidnapping and abduction. So when it comes to age, in case it is children, it is called as kidnapping, and when it comes to adults, it is called as abduction. So the fourth problem is with respect to kidnapping as well as abduction. So this particular campaign, that is Walk for Freedom, basically wants to ensure that there is an awareness program in and around the world. So what happens in this Walk for movement? People from all walks of life come up together, they gel up together, they go on a public forum and they discuss and speak about this human trafficking. In this particular background, what they also do is they give awareness of number of forms of trafficking, which includes bonded labor, organ transplant rackets, sexual exploitation, child marriage, so on and so forth. So this organization also creates an awareness and also raises the money. The money that has been raised is also used for serving and addressing the needs of the victim of human trafficking. When it comes to India, this particular organization has closely cooperated with this Movement India, which happens to be a volunteer mobilization platform. So the international organization is A21, and for India, it is Movement India, which has organized this particular event. This event was held in 10 cities in India, which includes Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, so on and so forth, across 450 cities across the world and across 50 countries in the entire world, where this awareness campaign was scheduled. Now let's focus on important laws in India with respect to the human trafficking. Article 23 of the Indian Constitution prohibits human trafficking, but the problem is it does not define what human trafficking is. So kindly remember, Article 23 of the Indian Constitution prohibits human trafficking, but it does not define the term. But this particular definition is present in IPC. Chapter 16 in IPC deals with offenses against the human body. In this particular chapter, there are certain sections. Sections 359 to section 374 deal with kidnapping, abduction, slavery and forced labor. When it comes to 2012, there was this heinous gang rape that we witnessed against a paramedical student, that is Nirbhaya gang rape case. Then Justice Verma committee was set up, and afterward this tragic event, then came the Criminal Amendment Act of 2013, which made major changes to IPC, and that is when it made changes with respect to IPC 370 as well as 370A. It is these two sections that have given the definition of what human trafficking is all about. And when it comes to the international conventions, India has also ratified the Palermo Protocol of the United Nations. This protocol basically wants to prevent, suppress and punish trafficking in persons, especially that of women and children. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about hybrid poll model. What is the context? The Rajasthan government has recently come up with a notification where they have come up with this new model for election of the head of the municipal corporations, and that is the mayor. Before we understand what this article is all about, let's understand a bit of a background. When you look at the current context, we have the municipal corporations. These are created for huge cities like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, so on and so forth. For establishing this municipal corporation, what we require is an act, and this act has to be supported by the state legislature. So it is the state legislature which also provide for the manner of election of the chairperson. So what happens? Apart from laying out the rules for the conduct of elections, there is election of the chairperson, which is also given in this particular act that is supported by the state legislature. Now let's look at the present architecture. You have the MLA constituency. This MLA constituency is broken down into further constituencies. These constituencies are called as wards. What happens? There are candidates that are put forward by the political parties. So these candidates are contesting for a post of councillor or the corporator. So the people elect them directly. So there is an MLA constituency. There are number of MLA constituencies within this particular region. So this particular MLA constituency is broken down into constituencies called as wards. These wards will have political candidates and they are contesting for the position of councillors or corporators. These councillors or corporators are elected directly by the people. So based on majority, there is a political party which forms the government within that municipal corporation. So what happens? The councillors are elected or the corporators are elected. How? By the direct elections. On basis of the majority, they also form this municipal corporation. Now it is these councillors who have already won which select a particular chairperson or a mayor for that particular council. So all those people who won the elections, they are part of the council, and it is these councillors and corporators who elect the mayor indirectly. This is the present structure. What is that the Rajasthan government is planning to come up with? All the mayors that are currently elected are elected indirectly by the elected councillors or the corporators. But the new means that Rajasthan government has come up with is where the mayor need not have to contest elections, he need not have to become a councillor, but he is getting a backdoor entry. So in spite of he not winning the elections, in spite of he not being a councillor, he not being selected among the councillors or the corporator, he can still be a mayor. How? That is when a political party consensus happens. So let's say, for example, there is a political party which has formed the municipal corporation in its council. So if this political party on an unanimous basis with consensus supported by the councillors selects this mayor, he happens to be the mayor of that municipal corporation. Currently, with respect to all the municipal corporations, he has to be elected by the people as a councillor first, then he'll become a mayor. But this hybrid model basically means he need not have to contest elections, he need not have to become a councillor, but just because he is able to come up with a consensus building, they put a person into this particular seat and he is elected as the mayor. To bring this into implementation, the Rajasthan Municipal Election Rules 1994 has also been amended. And another key important factor is member of parliament as well as MLAs will not be eligible for this particular position. In case Rajasthan happens to implement this model, it will be the first state in the country to implement this model of hybrid poll model. But what are the concerns? The decision would obviously weaken democracy. This will also encourage backdoor candidates in the urban bodies. What this basically means is, let's say there is a person who's contested the elections for the councillor or the corporator. He has been rejected by the people because he might be corrupted or he might have some criminal background. So the people have rejected him. What this also means is, because of his money power, because of his muscle power, because of his political connections, he may now get political census and he still can become the mayor. So the problem is people have rejected him, but he still can become the mayor. That is the major problem. It would also reduce the significance of the councillors and weaken democracy at the grassroots. How? There are electors that are electing the councillors. They are indirectly electing the mayors. Now, what is the significance of the councillors? This is another issue that has been discussed under this article. So kindly remember, we are not speaking about direct mayor elections here, but we are speaking about a hybrid model of direct elections to councillors and corporators, but indirect election of mayors by backdoor entry. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Center clarifies on the definition of forest. Before we understand what this article is all about, let's understand about the Forest Advisory Committee as well as landmark judgment of the Supreme Court in T.N. Godavarman Thirumalpad versus the Union of India. First, let us look at Forest Advisory Committee. This Forest Advisory Committee is a statutory body. This has been established by law and this comes under the administrative control of the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Kindly remember, this committee was constituted under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980. When you look at its composition, there are 7 members. This includes the chairperson, which is headed by the Director General of Forests. Further, this can be broken down into 3 official members and 3 non-official members. 3 official members include those representing the government and 3 non-official members include experts who have idea about forest as well as ecology. What is the objective for this particular committee? There are forest lands like the protected forest, reserve forest, but these forest lands will have to be diverted for non-forest uses. This includes mining, industrial projects, township. So this particular committee advises the government on the issue of granting forest clearances. So the idea is, when you are converting a forest land into non-forest uses such as mining, who provides the advisory? It is this particular committee. So this Forest Advisory Committee has a role of providing advices to the government. But is it binding on the government? No. The prerogative ultimately rests with the Ministry of Environment. So it is just giving advices whether this forest can be converted into non-forest mining related industries, but the ultimate authority is with the Ministry of Forest as well as Environment. Now let's look into what this landmark judgment is all about. When you look at forest as a definition, it has not been defined anywhere in any of the legal statutes, which basically means the forest has not been defined in the Indian Forest Act of 1927. It has also not been defined under the Forest Conservation Act of 1980. So there is lot of ambiguity of what the definition of forest is all about. Because there was lot of ambiguity, the state legislatures or the central legislatures did not have any definition of what the forest is. Ultimately, it heads to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court comes up with two important definitions. What are those? One, in case there is a present document of the Government of India which says that this is a forest, then it becomes a forest. So the land accorded as forest by any of the government record becomes a forest in itself. That is the first criteria. Second criteria is, in case it is not defined under any of the government records, then we will have to take the meaning of the forest as per the dictionary. What it means is any large tract of land covered by trees on which no agricultural activity has been undertaken, that also becomes forest, is what the Supreme Court has laid. So what does this judgment say? In case there is a land which has been accorded the status of the forest in any of the government records and documentaries, state government or central government, it automatically falls under the definition of forest. If not, we will have to take a new interpretation, and that is forest must be accorded this particular status as per the dictionary meaning. And when you look at the dictionary meaning, a large tract of land which is covered by trees on which no agricultural activity is undertaken, such can also be part of forest, is what the Supreme Court judgment said. At the same time, this particular judgment also directed all the state governments to identify areas which are forests, irrespective of whether they are notified, recognized, classified under any law, irrespective of the ownership of the land. So who has the owners right now? It is the owners of the state governments to identify what the forests are, irrespective of whether they are notified, recognized or classified under any law. So what is the current status now? Since 2014, the Ministry of Forest has been trying to come up with the definition of the forest. It has failed miserably. It has come up with number of drafts, and all this has not got the universal consensus. That is why the Forest Advisory Committee has now come up with a notification and has said that states need not have to take the center's approval to define what constitutes unclassified land as forest. So what it means is, the Forest Advisory Committee has said that the state government, the state missionary, the state bureaucracy are in a better position to understand what is a forest rather than the central government. So it has also said all the criteria for what a forest should be, you the state governments can define it, and this is as per the ruling given by the Supreme Court in the year 1996. So going forward, this particular criteria for the forest can be finalized by the state, and they need not have to be subject to the approval of the Ministry of Forest, is one of the clarifications given by the Forest Advisory Committee. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about central government health scheme. This is nothing but a comprehensive medical care provided to the central government employees as well as the pensioners. Who provides it? It is provided by the central government. So this particular scheme offers reimbursement as well as cashless facilities for the medical health care to all the enrolled members of the central government. The medical healthcare is provided for the allopathy, it is provided for homeopathy as well as Indian system of medicine, which includes Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha as well as Yoga. Who can be the beneficiaries of this scheme? All employees of the central government who draw their salary from central civil estimates, the dependent family members of the central government employee who draw their salary from central civil estimates and reside in areas covered under the CGHS, pensioners and family pensioners of the central government who receive pension from the central civil estimates, the eligible dependent family members of the pensioners and family pensioners of the central government, members of the parliament, both ex as well as sitting, ex vice presidents, retired judges of high courts, freedom fighters, retired as well as sitting judges of the Supreme Court, journalists accredited with Press Information Bureau, employees of Railway Board, Delhi police personnel, pensioners and employees of certain statutory autonomous bodies that have been extended facilities in New Delhi. So kindly remember, this can be an important question. They can ask who can actually come under this particular beneficiary scheme. So what is the present context? The present context is government seeks suggestions about this particular scheme. Previously, there have been grievances, there have been issues, and in case the central government employees or the pensioners have faced something like this, they can come up with suggestions to improvise this particular scheme. So what the central government has asked them is, in case you have any grievances, any issues, please write to us. How do they write? They can shoot an email or write a letter indicating the issues that were involved and how they can better this particular service that has been provided by the central government. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about Ajanta cave paintings. Before we understand about the paintings, let's understand key important facts with respect to the cave. This is present in the state of Maharashtra. So kindly remember, this can be an important question for your preliminary examination. And this currently houses the Buddhist cave complex. This cave was accidentally discovered by John Smith, who happens to be a British officer for the Madras Presidency in the year 1819. So kindly remember, this is nothing but a Buddhist cave. There are about 30 caves in this particular complex, and this have been carved out in a semicircular fashion. Out of 30 caves that we have, 5 are Chaitya Grihas, the remaining 25 are the Viharas. What is the difference between the Chaitya Griha as well as Viharas? A Chaitya Griha is a place where people actually assemble. It's a prayer area where people come up together. They have spiritual talks as well as debates. So this is nothing but a prayer hall. What is a Vihara? A Vihara is a place where the Buddhist monks come over and stay in this particular place. So there would be independent rooms and they would come over to rest in that particular place. These caves were developed both during the Hinayana phase as well as the Mahayana phase. But kindly remember, majority of the caves that are present in this Ajanta belong to the Mahayana phase. This particular phase, when you distribute in terms of the period, the first phase is also called as the Satavahana period and the second is also called as the Vakataka period. This site is currently under the protection of the Archaeological Survey of India because of its cultural as well as historical significance. This particular Ajanta cave was also awarded UNESCO World Heritage Site tag. Also remember, Chinese Buddhist travelers such as Fa Yin as well as Huan Sang have also mentioned about the Ajanta caves in their books, but the point to be noted is this is also present in their memoirs, but they have not physically been near this particular Ajanta caves. Now when it comes to the Ajanta cave paintings, this has been mostly revolving around the Buddhism. They have decorative patterns on the ceilings as well as pillar. They are mostly associated with the Jataka stories, recording of the previous births of Lord Buddha. The earliest paintings of Ajanta are present in cave number 9 as well as 10. And the most important painting, the painting of Bodhisattva Padmapani as shown in this picture, is present in cave 1, and this happens to be one of the masterpieces of Ajanta painting that was executed in the 6th century. Colors for this particular painting were made from pebbles. Vegetables that were found in and around that particular place, they were all bought up and extracted from these vegetables and in and around grasses, and that is how the painting was happening in this particular region. So what is the present context? The cave paintings have been deteriorating over a period of time. This is due to insects as well as the climatic factors. The insects here include silverfish, beetles as well as common bugs, and the climatic factors here include the rainfall. Because of both this combined together, they have changed the original color of the painting, which is turning this particular painting into yellow and blue and sometimes green as well. So what are the measures taken by the Archaeological Survey of India? It has been taking some precautionary treatments such as spraying of insecticides, herbicides, fixing the loose plaster on the cave walls, regular cleaning and use of all the preservative coating on the painting so that this particular original painting is as it is in this particular cave. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article, our RCEP trade negotiations on sticky ground, has been discussed on 29 July 2019. So kindly look into the first as well as the second discussion to give you an entire analysis of what this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article, what is furor around the land case, has been discussed on 17th of October 2019 under the fifth topic at 8 minutes 21 seconds. So kindly look into it. Now let's look into some of the prelims practice question. IMNEX is a naval exercise between India and Myanmar. So this is an exercise between India and Myanmar naval forces. This will encompass numerous operations including anti-air, surface firing exercises, and this will also ensure that there is interoperability between both the countries. So the significant factor is that this will strengthen the defense ties between both these countries and also strengthen professional interaction as well as interoperability. Why have we picked this up? Because there has been a reference which says Myanmar ships arrive in Vizag for exercise, and that is IMNEX 90. Now let's look into the next practice question. Coco Islands belong to which country? The answer is Myanmar. Because we had a reference to Myanmar, that is why this becomes very important. Where is Coco Island? It is located close by to the Andaman and Nicobar Island, and it belongs to the Myanmar. So they are part of the Yangon region of Myanmar. The islands took their current name from the Portuguese sailor in 16th century, coco being the Portuguese word for the coconut. Now let's look into the next practice question. The state information commissioners are appointed by the governor on the recommendation of chief minister as a chairperson, the leader of opposition in the state legislative assembly, and the speaker of the legislative assembly. Which of the above statements are correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why? Because it is not the speaker of legislative assembly but one of the cabinet ministers that have been appointed by the chief minister. Now let's look into the next practice question. Governor can remove the state chief information commissioners or any state information commissioner from the office without referring to the Supreme Court under which of the following circumstances? The answer to this is 1, 3 and 5 only. Why? Because misbehavior and incapacity both will have to be considered and referred to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court will do an inquiry, and after the inquiry has been given, that is when the governor would be able to remove them. For the other three conditions, he would be able to remove them directly, but when it comes to the misbehavior as well as incapacity, he needs to refer the same to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court will do an inquiry and then refer back to the governor. That is when the governor would be able to take a stand on this. Why have I picked these two questions? That is because of this particular reference made in this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. CUT sequence is a method of addressing issues concerning with cancer. Why have we picked this up? Because this article has given a reference about CUT sequence. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following historical places: Ajanta caves, Lepakshi temple, Sanchi stupa. Which of the above places is known for mural paintings? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Mural paintings are not present in the Sanchi stupa. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Human trafficking is a cancer to humanity. It needs multi-stakeholder approach. Explain national and international laws and initiatives taken to prevent the growing menace of human trafficking. Please write all your answers on the comment section, and in case you have liked our initiative, please do like and comment on our comment section and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.